Everyone, thank you very much for joining me. This is going to be probably a long video. I can already feel it. Polina here chatting to you a little bit about the equinox first happening in September on the 21st, as we are going from the bottom side of the chart to the top. So this measures the first half of the year since March. So if you are like me and you celebrate by ancient traditions, the 21st of March as we start Aries is the start of the year. So on the other side is of course the start of Libra on the 21st of September. So that's where we are now. And then we're crossing over into Libra, and we will then have a wonderful new moon. And I will talk about this little moon separately because not everybody believes or necessarily needs to hear about this part of the information that I'm providing. So this is a separate video just for the equinox. So the first things first, how to understand the year. So I bring this up almost every year. We have 4 seasons, some people believe. And in some ways they are definitely measured by solstices and equinoxes. So we have equinox on the 21st of March, we have solstice on the 21st of June, then we have another equinox on the 21st of September, and of course the last solstice, or the last part, the last measure on the 21st of December. So not everybody sees it as the truth. I simply go by the sun. I mean, for me, the sun in astrology and in my life and in nature is the main measure. So it is the difference between light and dark, day and night, and the different temperatures, or the different climaxes, or the different types of ups and downs that the planet goes through is, I think, based mainly on the sun, and yes, of course, the moon and other things fit in there. But if you don't go by the sun, so if you don't understand the sun and you don't care, you discard its movements, it is not a complete picture of life, basically. So also, if we look at the zodiac, and I already talked about this a lot, we see a progression of a life, with Aries being the baby, and then eventually we get to Capricorn, the old man, and then, Aquarius, the last phase of life, and Pisces being the death / the birth. So if you look at it this way also, we are going through the next half, or the next quarter, depends how you want to see it, of what life is about. So if you look at the signs in groups of 3, so Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, and so on, you see a progression of life, and we see what the sun, the soul, or some think it's the ego because it's self-association. You have to associate to be real, that's the thing. You have to understand that you're here to be real. Self-association traps itself into new questions, and through these questions it grows. So every single sign provides a certain type of question mark and a certain recognition also of the previous state of being. So within Aries is a previous state of Pisces, and the whole zodiac till Pisces, but it doesn't quite fully understand Taurus yet. And then people say that as you go through a life, you eventually ascend to the next adjacent sign. So for example, you're Scorpio, you'll become a Sagittarius, you're an Aquarius, you'll become a Pisces, and so on. So I don't necessarily believe that is exact, but in some ways, yes, you answer all the question marks within your sign, and then you basically get it. So if you want, you can basically just educate yourself on your own sign. So for example, being a Libra myself, I mean, I've done all of that most of my life. So after that, you run out of questions, and you get to be in a really nice, perfect state, but that's not the point. It's not the point. So to achieve questionlessness isn't really the point of life. It is just about enjoyment, actually, at the end of the day, if you can imagine. So it isn't just about, being a guru sitting on a lotus and, knowing yourself. It's not at all about this. It's about just understanding who you are through the daily experiences, and also inspiration and excitement that comes out of the moment itself. So it is about joy, and it is about living and liveliness and curiosity. And if you're not living within these vibrational states, you are not solar enough. So coming back to the sun, so if you want to, you can have a look at the sun on your horizon today, understand it, and maybe question it if you need to, and then eventually start to connect to it. If you like, you can do sun salutations, sun breathing practices. I used to sometimes sit outside in the sun and sing and drum to the sun, and that was really, really nice for me. That was enough. So I had some really incredible messages come through and some curious visions also. So if you like, just like concentrate on the solar energy, the soul, you know, the soul solar energy, and understanding of the world through that predominant one. So if you want to, you can do that. I mean, it's always helpful if we want to come out of the dirt, of the shadow, or of the thinking patterns or seeking and feeling left behind. Sometimes the UV rays, you know, the sun's rays, and the patterns that it makes every single day are just enough, you know, knowing when to get up, knowing when to go to bed. So I think it's really important here in my case. Getting up earlier, you know, after working a night job and, you know, being dubious and between space and time has been really, really actually uncomfortable. And also the circadian rhythms are a very important factor of daily life. So if we are not asleep by a certain hour, if we're looking online and we are using artificial lighting, is going to set us off. And a lot of people actually experience depression and like because of the artificial lighting and not really seeing themselves totally. And why sometimes people get really lost is because they don't remember what it's like to just feel good. So at night it's really good to have infrared lighting. It's very good to have natural lighting, for example, from a candle or a fire. And I also would say that a fire is an interesting way of captivating the idea of what the sun is. And I think that's why many tribes and many peoples in the world have really defined the phenomenon of fire close to, you know, being like the father or the grandfather sun, or, you know, the god. So it's like fire and God are similar things, and yes, it has a destructive quality and has to destroy to survive here on this plane. But it is a very interesting part of life. So if you do like to build fires and burn fires, it's a very interesting time to do that. Also, like, consider ancient, you know, Slavic, European, I don't know, practice around the world, like African practices. You know, what did people do around certain times of the year? Is there a certain type of phenomena that is happening here culturally? If you want to, you can study it. So there's always going to be some information online. How is the autumn equinox celebrated, or what is the autumn equinox? If you want, you can have a look. Some people do think it's a time between worlds. Now it's interesting because we have Halloween, of course, at the end of October, but you see, here's a completely different consciousness. It's become a big holiday, and it has Irish roots. You know, it doesn't really have the same place in society now as it used to in a farming community or farming villages. But you know, these days it's just crazy. It's crazy what it's become. But let's look at the VX on the DC here. Let's look at the endpoint of the wheel, which is where basically the Sun, Mercury, VX, you know, in this chart where I'm looking, and Venus and Eros and Make and Psyche are going to be. So there's a little stellium in the sky happening. Sorry to confuse you if I have. Around the DC. So the main thing is that we got Sun, Mercury, and Venus conjunction, okay, on the DC. And the DC point is the point of ending. And in some charts, you can tell what may happen in the last few years or even days in a person's life. So this is a little bit grim for some that don't believe anything after death, and then they don't feel very comfortable with the idea of death or dying. So I talk a little bit about this. I'm talking a bit about this now, actually, again. The Sun is going through the DC globally, so we are looking at the phenomenon of death or a certain type of revival and a reclaim of space after the certainty of death or ending has been received, you know. So this is very, I think, hard for me to explain to you guys, because I do definitely understand that most people think that death is something spooky or grim or uncomfortable. And I did always say, like, just look at how other cultures associate with death, you know, how the ancient Chinese, you know, or the people of India would associate with death, and the vision or the understanding, the shamanic vision of what dying is. So, I mean, if you want to, you can also research that if you like. So we are going for a certain type of discarding. So if we look at the signs as a biology also, by Virgo, we are in the digestive tract, you know, and as you're starting from the head being the Aries, we've gone through, you know, Aries, Taurus, you know, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, the heart, and then the digestive tract being Virgo, and eventually would have gotten to Libra. So Libra is about elimination. So things come in and things come out. And also a lot of us Libras do have to understand the concept of elimination a lot. So like to measure, to balance, you got to eliminate. Your body has to be able to eliminate and focus its energy on itself. So we forget that, you know, as part of the lesson for Libras. Also part of Virgo is feeling disheartened if one is not understood or seen for the work and the goodwill that they have. So it's a very, very nice idea to recognize oneself. And if you really, really don't understand what is happening in your world, if you're feeling very displaced, it's going to make it very hard for the next couple of quarters of the year. And sometimes a lot of turbulence, whether you believe it or not, that happens during equinox or solstice season, can lead up to a turbulent, unsure, and insecure path later on in life. So the best way to do this is basically to let bygones be bygones. So if you can imagine the time of the year ending, you know, for example, the end of December, and how people treat that time, and how much they allowed to go and to live their life, and you know how much they forgive and forget or reconnect with other people. Not many people know this, but we have to do this quite a lot. You know, people think that, you know, just sit down and think about the years gone by in December as a traditional kind of a cultural practice. You don't have to do that only in December. Try to do this often. So like basically what I do is I use contemplation, meditation, and sometimes also explanation even to myself in my own space. So I talk to myself out loud sometimes in order to gain insight and clarity and knowledge and closure on things. So that's something I was doing just last night. That can actually detoxify your energy field, and that eventually leads to detoxification of your life, your body, and the choices just get better and better just because you're not carrying that stuff around. So in the northern hemisphere there's fall, and then in the southern there is spring. So like the thing is, not to get fixated on this, but I think that for some people, you know, we do have to understand how nature works. So if you are working with fall, you know, and we do have the DC point with this time anyway. So this is like the time of death or departing, fall. I mean, if you look at how nature basically starts to depart and wither away, and just allowing it, like that tree was once green, and now it is looking old and frail. You know, this vegetable or fruit doesn't grow anymore. I can't harvest a certain flower in the field now, or there's just not that feeling or that spice to the air that was there during a certain season. So we don't have these feelings that were there before, and it's natural, you know. So as we go into fall, just as we go into mature age, as Libra would naturally represent a time right before you hit total spiritual maturity, which is Sagittarius, the MC, in the chart. So 21st of December is a total like multi-layer maturity space in the wheel. We haven't done that, but we're looking forward to greater maturity. So that's like when you are in your 30s or 40s, and you just basically know yourself, especially in your like say early to mid 30s. That's basically the time that we're living through here, you know. So you've done your dash, you've done the job as a cyclical year, you know, in a cyclical year, not just in your life, no matter what years you are. And you just basically want to become more conscious on that which you did, and you want to make sure there's no karma left over from your cycles. So this is where Virgo really sometimes powers us through. Like the whole time of September and Virgo is to get rid of all that crap that we generate sometimes in order to esteem or elevate or become more conscious or more human. So like a lot of the crap, you know, so sometimes, you know, your cells have to leave so new ones are born. You know, you have to leave certain people, certain places to be able to walk into others. So like this is also where Libra is going to really catch you here. So the ability to leave things behind would have been very, very thoughtful and very kind. So naturally, it is a nice time right now to ask us, did we leave enough behind, or did we just like hoard? So like it's important to allow like another person, other people to have something of yours. If you are on the southern hemisphere, in the southern hemisphere, maybe it is good to be cleaning and giving things away. If you enjoy a good garage sale, if you live in Australia, New Zealand, they're very famous over there. So why not just put things on the street, or just give things away? So it's a very, very nice thing. to do here. And if you want to, you can also make other people aware if you have something that you want to give to them, or if you have a skill, or if you have a certain job you can do for others, if you feel like it. It depends if it's also very humble and easy and clear for you. But there are a lot of people still jumping. So I will help you see how to recalibrate that. So if you can imagine, yeah, it's a jumpy year. So we are in the water tiger. Water does subdue tiger a lot, but it is still a tiger year 2022. So if you are living within certain parameters and you understand yourself as a fighter anyway, and maybe you've lived many years or even many lives or many generations in certain families that keep on going, keep on trucking and keep on pushing, this is not sustainable anymore. So the idea basically is to understand that the first half of the year, isn't really about pulling back or pushing down. It's more about just sprinting. And how this worked, I think for me in my case, was just through patience, organization, and hard work the previous years to a degree. And sometimes the good karma that you have gained from many years of work or self-association kind of pushes you up eventually to a level where you can guide other people. You can reach a certain state of mastery or just a certain state of miracle. So that's been happening in my life a lot. So like sometimes it's like a geyser, it's like hot air, it just like pushes you up. So for certain people in Tiger year, there's definitely been already big spurts. So growth spurts, as we're going through, we've been going through the root system of the chart. If you look at last solstice on the 21st of June between, of course, Gemini and Cancer, you see like a lot of us got something there. So June, July, August. Actually, even starting from Taurus, I'd say April, June, July, August, I think there was quite a lot of gas or quite a lot of sort of like activity to push us and to bounce us up to that next level. So people had to step up into certain practices and certain ideas. And as I said already, with this warring part of Tiger Year, which I talked about in the global videos for what was going to happen for 2022. So like all of this war, also all of this anger, frustration, also violation can happen during Tiger as it is an aggressive time. So yeah, that was also, but it is also very positive. So people that like color, that like to go to the next step, that like the next wave, that want to be innovative, also people that have been sitting there on their work, and I was definitely one of those people for sure. Like say you've done a lot of stuff and you've made many pieces of work, or you've made many ideas, and then you didn't really go anywhere with it. So the old guru or the old doctor or the old ideas man or woman had to come out. So this is probably the heaviest for you right now. So if you are somebody who has created buckets of work, if somebody once told you couldn't do it or you weren't good enough, and then you just didn't really show it to anybody, it is just now like such an important time. Like make it a sale, put a price tag on it, sell your wares. And if you know something that other people don't, try to distribute it. Now it is about mainstream information. So you noticed what I have done back in August. Actually, I've launched my albums of music. So I started to put them together back in the end of Cancer. And I've been sitting on just buckets of songs, buckets of work, and I didn't want anybody to see them because I didn't know where I fit in or who would ever even listen to my material. Now they're out there. So yeah, if you want, you can check out my music on Spotify. It's not an advert. This is not an advert. I'm just letting you know. So like basically where I went wrong for too many years is I just stuck it down, like forget about it. Nobody succeeds in this. Nobody needs to see this. Nobody needs to do this. Like you were just like telling people about your personal affairs through your sound, because it's all like, singer-songwriter stuff. It's all like made up. Most of it is entirely original. There's like maybe 4 covers in there, but it's all just originals. And then I knew it. It's just like Tiger Year came, and it's like I couldn't live without getting that out of me, So sometimes there's sediments in the body, and because we didn't know how to distribute them throughout the body, we didn't know how to emit them. So like sometimes this can lead to depression or cancer or just bad philosophies and mental illness. So like, for example, if you've never talked about things with anybody else, you never wanted anybody to know what you were going through, if you never wanted anybody to see you, it could eventually start to become like a growth. So for example, I have cancer in my family, and I just knew like one day some things could happen if I just didn't tell anybody anything, and I just sat there on my work. So if you have that, if you have like a bucket of thoughts, if you have built yourself a secret stash of music, or if you are secretly like maybe a genius or a writer, or you're just very good with your brain, which is likely, if you're just very, very smart, or if you just know a lot, it's such an important time to let it go, but let it go free. So I also have to tell you about the places and the partnerships that we could have scored. Like, I'm so sorry. It's not for every single person, but yeah, could have scored back in Taurus. So like, for example, Aries and Taurus, March, April, May of 2022, we really had quite a lot of exquisite, specialized, and simple ways of getting ourselves out there. And it was really the time to shine your light and to show yourself as probably one of the best versions that you could have ever been. So it was a very, very energetic time, supported by nature. So whatever you had to do, whatever you had to sing, whatever you had to write, whatever you had to be, it could have really been supported and kind of poised by the collective of people and the collective mind. But then you see like there was like a mishmash of things, and Gemini would have put a lot of things into the mix. And by Leo, we had to really recognize what we had to be. So it's like, oh, I understand, I can now do this, or like I now have a platform, or like say I can be in this context. So the first and second sign were more private. This is where you get the private investor. This is where you get the specialty connection. This is where you get very interesting and very, very divine links between people. You can make a lot of money from a piece of art, for example, March, April, May. And then basically we had a medley, and all of this medley, June, July, this is like, yeah, high season, you know, this is like the top of summer. And not many people know this, but like quite a lot of us suffer because there's so much going on, and we don't have enough energy, strength, or vitality to really kick it. And I was going for quite a crazy little time in June myself, but like May, June. But basically we just had to just be there, like make an appointment, sign up, just check it out. So that was the time, was high time. So most of the world, you know, where this information probably even matters, you know, the Northern Hemisphere, that would have been the top of summer. And then eventually it goes on to yellowing leaves, you know, so we go into August and it is harvest almost. And then that goes into a yellowing. So that means that all that burst, all that pride, and all that significance, and all of that sun starts to kind of go down. And already by the sixth sign of Virgo, it would have been like, well, you know, these are my last little letters, or like, I don't know, how to even give this away. It's like I'm packaging up bundles of things that I didn't even know I had. I mean, like I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel for some people, not necessarily, but yeah, some people would have already done their dash. So some people would have already approached the investor, approached the company, gotten in there, gotten in on it when they took it to the next limit. And then eventually we have Libra, you guys. So this is a balancing. So this first part of the year, between the equinox and the equinox, you know, at the bottom of the chart, as we go through the first 6 signs, I mean, that's that. I mean, if you are young and pushy and emotional and have a lot of significance about you, I mean, that was the time. This is where you are now at pamphlet levels. Pamphlet levels meaning like you don't even care about how much energy or hullabaloo you caused, and you're basically handing out disposable or reproduced energies, you know. So this is like, say, having these tracks online and then people just buy a copy, you know, or like telling people about what you believe through mass media, you know, Libra. And it is the house of elimination, also the 7th house. So that's the thing. It's like we've gotten to this point where we are now not really maybe needed so much in a specialty context, but aha, like maybe like the soul wonders. I mean, like, wow, I am just a picture of a picture or a copy of a copy. So this is it. Like I just splash my heart out in the first part of the year, and then I'm just like, waiting for people to get in touch with me, or I'm just like sending letters. What is this, you know, like what is the point of all of this, and how come I'm not there yet? So I mean, to me, the best thing is to be kind. If you are a creative person or romantic person, or you're just like a philosopher or dreamer and you have a lot of feelings, just give them away. It is so heavy to hide anything in a tiger year. So I should probably underline this. Don't hide anything in the tiger year. So that's the thing. It's like you gotta take it out to the surface so you can feel clean, sparkly, and colorful inside. You know, so it's like going to the bathroom, you know, taking a laxative, like trying to give things away. If you have some words, if you've written a little book or you write poetry, just like put it out somewhere, because you might get noticed. It's not just about being noticed. It's like weaving a life out of what is naturally there. So, I mean, this is the thing. I think we have to be so good to you if you don't know how it's done, and that's really hard. So, like, I know quite a lot of people, like with all due respect as well, stagnate, and whether they're old or young doesn't matter, like what years they are. They just basically bring out materials from the depths, you know, from the ancestry or from their knowledge bank, and they do so much research these days online. Wow, there's so many dedicated researchers or astrologers or just like psychics and other people, and then they just sit there in it. Does it make sense? Like they don't make anything from it, you know, and they don't feel like they could. And also, like, we have like artificial intelligence and such. And I also was one of those people. It's like, why draw pictures? Why draw pictures if you could just like have this program generate an image for you in like 2 seconds? You know, it's like, why do anything? You know, everybody's already done it. And I do understand it's really overwhelming. There's quite a lot of media out there. It's not just about this. People feel so sick. And I think that part of it is because a lot is inside. So I'm just going to go directly to the body. We have to purge the system. So like one of the better things that I can prescribe is senna leaf, like senna leaf or even neem, you know, for people that really just need to purge their system. Some people go as far as colonics or like saltwater flushes if you want to do that. I mean, you can just drink a lot of tea. So the thing is basically not to feel left behind or stranded. I think this is one of the worst things. You know, it's like you're an old tiger, like you're an old warrior and feeling so left behind, alone, and kind of forgotten by the world. I think this is probably one of the worst feelings that I'm picking up at this point. So we have to feel what we can do to get out of that feeling like you are just like an item sitting there dusting away on the shelf and nobody wants to see you, nobody wants to speak to you, nobody wants to make contact with you. So a lot of those old souls, you know, and new bodies and older bodies, you know, we're all like, I think we're all like that. I think it's not just you and your friends. I think it's very, very common. We just have to admit that we're holding back. So it isn't the time, you guys, like this isn't high time to get yourself out there in the world right now. Like to suddenly understand you want to make music or art, or you want everybody to hear you, or you got a story. It's like a little bit lighthearted at the same time, so it's very accepted, but it might get erased. I mean, we also have Mars in Gemini, so you see, like it could be out of sight, out of mind. So a lot of what you are generating could be forgotten within just like a couple of days, you know. So there is like a short-lived phenomena happening in the sky. Also, Mercury next to the Sun always will make it short-lived and short-tempered as well. So we have to be basically kind of okay with that. And if we really, really want to, we can share like our lives also, because we're actually coming to a very comfortable moon for marriage. And I'll be talking about this in the next video if you'd like to watch that one. So like, I suppose like, what else is to lose control. I feel that this particular month, this particular time, the equinox here, wouldn't be very good for controlling your lives. I think having to be in control and wanting to be controlling over other people and who they think you are, who they say that you are, or how they react, or like who's in the group, or who's in your family, or who's under your roof, like all of that at the moment is freaking spicy. And I think that a lot of people might be losing themselves over that. So if you want to, you can check in. If you've had quite a lot of control, this is a wonderful, I've done this actually yesterday. check if you've had quite a lot of control or censorship over your life, you yourself, or if somebody in your family or in your past has brought you up or has burdened you with an increased sense of control. You know, so if you want, you can study that. You know, just the other day, as example, I was looking at this painting, and it's never looking good enough for me. I'm always like, I gotta do it all again. I gotta do this. I did it as kind of like a philosophical exercise for myself, like this whole painting, right? So like when I look at it today, I'm just like, look, it's perfectly fine. It is what it is. You know, and that feeling, that fear of not getting that line right, or like getting all the colors wrong, it doesn't pursue me anymore because I just don't want it, you know. So I think that's it. I think that's at the core of this Virgo season anyway, or it's been, it's just like, look, I don't want it, let it go. And I know there's been mixed messages, and a lot of astrologers since August told people to like grit their teeth and get that cart up the hill and, you know, push through and get aggressive. And I know that feeling. I used to live under that spell also, but to me, really, I feel that what works is allowing nature to be in your life, and that also is within, you know, so it's not just like going outside and looking at the moon, it's actually just like you, okay, are nature, right? Yeah. And then basically understanding the lack of control that one should probably have in their life to be able to live it freely. And we did just, you know, have a death of the queen recently. Interesting. And we are now walking into completely different territory and will meet the moon. And the moon does mean control. Or in some cultures, it's associated with foolishness. And yeah, and some also is associated with matriarchal line wanting to control the child or wanting to put the energy into the correct place. So I don't really usually look at the moon these days because I'm basically using my body to switch off these systems, right? So yeah, that's interesting. It's a very, very interesting topic, switching off the connective tissues, the fascia inside the body, and learning how to switch off certain emotional states without having to participate in certain experiences and be so like aggressive or emotional about things, basically. So I'm doing that today. Yeah, and it's been a few like really big blessings have come through that. So yeah, I mean, if we are talking about mother and control and matriarchal energy or lineage wanting to trap the child within body or like form or wanting to make it more like itself, and also like the connective tissues between people and I suppose the mycelium of time, like people's lives, you know. I think we have to understand what we really always wanted, and to me, it looks like people are fighting for respect and resonance. And I do understand as we build up to Libra, there will be a topic of love, as also Venus is going to be close to the Sun, walking to Libra very favorably. So, like, there is going to be a question of who am I? You know, what am I? You know, and who am I to you? You know, all of that stuff. So then we have to basically become a little bit less robust and understand what is that little freak out that we have inside, and who is that little inner child that wants to get things wrong as well and rebel against oneself, and then why does the inner parent want to teach it so many things, you know? So I think we have to understand that little play of light and dark and control and rebellion inside of ourselves and our psyche, and also that transfers with money systems and partnerships and children. Everything is just a little game, you know. And if you have a child, you'll know sometimes they just like to play a little game with you. Maybe you play in the game first and they're just repeating what you're saying. So that's the thing. So I think that we all have to feel a little bit more open and conscious. And if you really do have to feel a little dark as we are moving into fall, I do definitely understand that. So like sometimes, you know, people feel dark about death or dark about decay and things having to fall away. But you see, like if you didn't poop, you know, if you didn't have cell renewal, you know, if you didn't eliminate, you probably wouldn't be here. That's the thing. It's like you got to release, you got to relax, you got to let go. And I think that's probably like the shortcut to everything right now, is just to basically be able to eliminate and not hold on so much, and not to feel precious about things that just weren't. And I think that's probably one of the gold mines within this time, as just to know that all of that preciousness that you are taking aback, you know, and you're feeling like, oh, I can't share this with the world. No, no, this is emotional for me, or like, no, this is the way that I like it, and all of that. That preciousness, I think, is going to put us behind. And I think that also evolution really, as we are in a tiger year still, obviously, really counts on that little fragile part, that weakness, and that obsession for some of us to dissolve. So, oh no, how dare you say this to me? You know, like, oh, what did you mean by that? You know, so all of this stuff has to eventually start to relax. And this pushness that we feel inside is sometimes just the cause and effect of just being told what to do. So that's the thing. And then eventually we go into Venus touching Libra, and it's going to be very nice and joyful. So all of this kind of dubiousness building up to the moon is going to eventually take all of it away. So I'm actually feeling that quite many people will feel the ability to risk take as well, but it's not just that, like this joyfulness and the compatibility with whoever, whatever they've got going on. So I'll do the video about the new moon now, today, and I'll also outline that. But for now, I think actually probably it's best to concentrate on how to package yourself, actually, to be honest, before we go into the next half/quarter of the year. So like when we go through the first 6 signs, okay, from Aries to Virgo, I'll name them just in case. So we've got Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, and Virgo. You go through these signs, okay, this is your ABC. This is like the best you can do. So the youth and the vitality of the year is through. This is like the most, for most people. So this is like the most power, the most wisdom, vision, youth, vitality, freakishness, emotion, gifts. Okay, this is like the most raw, you know, and the most significant, okay? By Leo, actually, like between the two fire signs, you know, Aries, Leo, that's the most, and Virgo already goes into just like, oh crap, I didn't do this right, oh, I gotta go and sort it out. So Virgo is already like a sign, oh, slow down a little bit, like hold your horses, I got to go through all the events, I got to look at the people, oh my god, I got to sort out my paperwork, and I got to sign some things, and then I got to do all these little tiny things. So Virgo already is not really necessarily what you want to do. So that's probably, yeah, that's it. It's just like basically shaping up and trying to improve on that which you've already done. So that's already that. It's just nature trying to balance out all the things that happened that didn't have to happen. So Virgo is a cleaner in a way. So she energetically cleans everything, just like finds a way to be more conscious and more correct, and, you know, finds her inner center and her nervousness and her ideals. You know, it's like the idealist and the surfacer and resurfacer, and, you know, a filtering system to a degree, right? So we've already done it. You've done the dash, okay? Most people have done it. And then we have this other quarter, okay? So from Libra, you know, understanding how to balance all your life events and everything that you've done to date and all of this thing, you lead it to a mastery. So Libra goes through a turbulent energy of Scorpio and eventually walks out a Sag. You know, so basically all you do here is, not necessarily, you don't have to take this too literally, basically here people balance, find that center of gravity, get all of that anger and fire, get like that sense of maturity and understanding, and even like globality about their life. And sometimes people go through like a dark night of the soul, and then inevitably we turn up in Sagittarius, and Sagittarius is like the sky's the limit. You know, I am the master. You know, so Sagittarius is kind of like the teacher. So that's the teacher sign. So eventually we'll get there. So by the 21st of December, which is what a lot of people see as basically the end of the year, which isn't. It isn't. Not till March. Not till the fat lady sings, as they say it. And that's where you are. So the 21st of December is like King, Master. This is like where you are at your psychic and emotional maturity. And then this change between 9th and 10th house, Sag and Capricorn, that's where we really, really like want you to be. So basically, now is getting all of these ingredients, all of these young, childish, and nervous ideas, you know, all of these different experiments with life, getting all of that, which you've done in the last maybe even like a year and a half, seriously, and cooking it into something real. So getting strong, getting meaningful, understanding your time and space, learning how to work with yourself better, learning how to make money from that which you're doing, learning how to get attention and not be scrutinized, okay? Learning how to present yourself. So all of that raw, sometimes garbage, don't be afraid of that, you know, like look at culture these days, like look at the world, like sometimes garbage that we generate gets to be pressured or, you know, let go of, you know, get to be cooked and restructured into some kind of form or forms of universality. So we are going towards Capricorn, and eventually all of that juice is structured into a kind of like a golden object, or like that finished design, you know. So if you ever went to design school, you'll know you get to do a lot of doodles and like crappy, creepy little things to get to that place where you're like, okay, this goes in the frame, or like I'm doing this for real, or like I'm making a golden version of this. So we'll inevitably come to that point, but here for now, we just basically have to understand that though this previous half of the year was very, very bright, and maybe you're like, oh gosh, I should have launched my book, my god, I should have like tried that, and I should have like been with my friend, and could have, you know, oh my gosh, like, you know, I was like procrastinating this whole time, and I didn't really like launch anything, and I didn't try it and push myself, I didn't evolve, or like, I don't feel like I have all of that stuff. That's not too bad. And basically you're looking at your workbook, and even if you did, or you know, did not, if you did procrastinate, there was still growth and there was still youth. Even if you sit there at home looking at the TV every single day for years, there would have still been a spurt of light or energy. Tiger year is definitely amazing. And the inner winner, or the inner coach, or the inner guru or guide would have still come out. So that first half of the year, even if it's nonsense, doesn't matter. So basically all we're doing is we're using all of this as kind of like a raw ingredient, or like exploration of our youth, or like our childish self, or the inner innocence. And now we're going to make a business out of it, for example, or now we're going to make it sustainable, or now we're going to have other people help us make it presentable. So it's very, very nice to get all of the stuff that we've cultivated and generated and tried to be a part of during the first part of the year into some kind of perspective, so that we can eventually, for example, make money of it, or make a life out of it, or just enjoy it, or just know that we've done it, you know. So it's like, here you get a little trophy for what you did, or here you get a little paycheck, or like you get to understand how it actually can still be part of your wisdom. And it's kind of a golden line of people. So this is where you talk about this with your family and friends after you cross that line. So this is when we're going into elder mode. You know, if you imagine the wheel of signs as like a progression of age, elder mode, eventually, you know, onto the elder sign of Capricorn, we will eventually mean something with that which we've done. And not everything, not all makes it to that trophy cabinet, you know. So not everything that we've ever done, and not everything that we've ever wanted to be or do, has inevitably made it to that state where it could actually be part of an emblematic thing, you know. So for example, if you are working with an agency, or you're a designer or representative, anything, it is a filtering system, you know. So when we eventually leave all of this that we've done, all of this dabbling, all of this pressure and push and emotionality, volcanism and essence that we had to live through to generate and forge some ideas in Tiger year, we inevitably go into this maturing cycle in the first quarter of the second sequence. So this is just the first quarter. So by the 21st of December, nothing actually ends. It's just we get to a really nice solid level of who we think we are, we were, or have to be. So basically all we're doing is packaging diluting in some ways, letting go or catching up to things that should have probably ever been. And yes, of course, usually most people have a little dark night of the soul when it comes to like the end or even the middle of Libra, and we'll go into Scorpio eventually, even up to the start of Sag. Some people are like, I don't know, I'm useless, I'm this, I'm that. You know, like we sometimes get to see all these faces and feel all these feelings just to kind of like scrutinize our life results and to question inside. Like there is a little question, did I make my father proud, or did I make my family line proud? Is this something that my people can relate to, or is this something that I could later imagine as a legend or a legacy? Okay, now that's kind of creepy stuff for me. Legacy territory. I don't care about that stuff, so I don't know how to tell you guys. You see, like a lot of what we are suffering through, you know, as a species is part of other people wanting to make a mark and leave something behind. So you see, like if we are talking also Virgo, Libra, you know, things becoming waste, you know, digestive system becoming eventually their eliminatory system, and eliminating what? Eliminating what was previously savory, you know. So like that's the thing. I think there's quite a lot of junk out there in the world that we don't know how to metabolize. And also, this is a bit of a crude example, but if you see, like, this is important, you know, legacies. Okay, so if you see how people have been bringing themselves up for the last like 200 years, and how little of it can even fade away, and how many scars and burdens is left on the planet and our souls, and also how people can't even forget, you know. And sometimes, yeah, look, money, also obsession with goods and families and keeping things together and keeping secrets, you know, all of this is just part of that, you know, not knowing how to dissolve anything that we've done. Also, wood, metal, you know, consider like natural environment and what it can and cannot process. I mean, okay, this is just a little, it's a little off, but I'll just say, like, houses like this, like I'm living in a mud house, basically, like they disintegrate with age. You don't have to believe this, but you know, like there are going to be industries that are connected so well, and they allow like houses to disintegrate with time, and they allow like human lives to be in a way forgotten and recycled or rebelieved in another way. So we don't need to like be pinnacle finding. It's an obelisk type of world, you know. It's like, I want this on my wall, I want this on my I don't know, like on my cabinet. I want this in my trophy cabinet, you know, like I want this on the mantelpiece, I want this for my children and children's children to see. So all of that, yeah. So we're looking at hierarchy, and we're looking at, you know, different systems of Western rule. And, you know, I did touch on the Queen dying recently as well, you know, falling burdens and all of that. So like that's the thing. It's like we don't want to necessarily care for that later. I mean, like, you know, it's just so crazy. I mean, people make, like, for example, the fashion industry, they make so many items out of unable to be recycled materials, basically. But there are some people that will find a way, but it's just so annoying. It's not like hemp or, I mean, it's like a virus out there. It's just like a mental illness, you know, people wanting to, yeah, there's a mental illness out there, people wanting to make the unbreakable and unshakable. They can't part with their work, and they don't want to be away from that which they think they have made, and so they've identified with it. So if you look at it, I mean, I suppose in this way you kind of understand it. It's just a trap. It's just like people wearing a little crown or a little hat, and then that's it, you know, and then they don't grow, they don't allow anything to leave, and they become crusty and sad and depressed, and they're weak inside because so much strength is on the outside. So a lot of the weakest people I've ever met in my life had a lot to show for their lives, or their ancestors have had. So it's just like they're walking around like they're very big, but inside they're so inept and unprepared for any life experience that would shake this veneer from the world. So veneer, okay, teeth, you know, veneers, you know, the veneer and the gloss. one of the reasons why I love this kind of housing, you know, I'm living here, I'm not sure if you can see, this is a mud wall, you know, and a mud hut. What I really love about it is that you can't gloss it up, you can't put a veneer on it, you know. The veneer being shaken or just having to separate. And also that leads me on to like this association with makeup, like our obsession with perfection and style and fashion and trends and everything glossy and shiny, and it's beginning to see its end. I actually do definitely trust that this affair with social stereotypes and marketing has started to become unavailable or even uncomfortable. So for me, as somebody who clearly doesn't wear makeup or even brush their hair sometimes, sorry about that, that's offensive to you. But that's the thing. It's like you got to let it out. You got to let out yourself. Like let your teeth be your teeth. You know, let your face be your face. You know, and then come what may, you eventually get to go in the right direction. You know, because you are leading with the head. That's an interesting concept. Okay, so Aries, the head, leading with the face, leading with the head. You know, some people imagine a passage of a soul as a head with a tail. So also Rahu and Ketu, the north and the south nodes. We do have a lucky fortune symbol next to the north node, Uranus conjunction and Taurus on the equinox as well. So yeah, there's a luck there in terms of who you are and what you want to do. But you see, like, grow up basically. It's like it's just you, it's just how it is. Like nurture yourself and you'll get incredible results. You don't have to put expensive creams on your face to make them look wonderful with age, you know, like I'm almost 37, you know what I mean? So it's like all of these things, very important, you know, you're leading with your face, you know, and then a lot of people, you know, they make such incredible crude adjustments to their exterior, to their Facebooks and their avatars, you know, on different social media programs, and you know how they use themselves, their presence, their word, or their name, and like what they use, you know, makeup and branding and creating false names and pseudonyms. Nobody had to do that in the first place, and I think that a lot of it is lost and corrupted simply because we had a little whim. You know, people had a little whim, they had a little fun time, and they try to be somebody that they couldn't actually eventually afford to be because they don't look like that, you know. So if you don't look like your own face, that's faceless. So we talking tiger year also, and that's really full identity. And if nothing about you is real or fully conscious or able to self-identify, that's hard. So I mean, if you wanted to, before we go into Libra, which is a kind of a time of being washed out a little bit and also met by public, because it is a very, very goofy kind of like social and cultural sign, Libra. I'm a Libra also. It's a very, very hard time to be if you just can't even be pleased and conscious about your face, if you can't be pleased about your natural, normal significance and neutral and organic results. And I think that's something that's been like a really big burden in my family, is like not being okay with, you know, like say my mother, I mean, she's in the 70s, she still pricks herself with like needles and gets fillers, and you know, she tries to be somebody else, and she uses that as a kind of like a safety net. So like I would also like to draw your attention to what you present, you know, and maybe this doesn't apply to you, you know, say you're a male and you've never worn makeup in your life, but what I'm saying is just about presenting you, how you present the face of your company, yeah, the face of you, the face of your culture, the face of what you're doing in your life, what you're facing and what is facing your natural results, and then eventually, inevitably starting to be there for yourself, but also like carrying that further. So I think to me it is about authenticity in the end, and being in a way marked as something that you are, somebody that you are. Yes, some people are getting really good jobs and place in society, kind of being marked for something that they do, something that they become good at over the years. And then for some, I think it's not really necessarily about any kind of marking. It's just about being seen, and in some cases being seamless. So I think that for quite a lot of people, there is need for nurture, and there is need for a certain level of energy, maybe even aggression, just to try and forge one into a more comfortable and secure version of oneself. So I think that's pretty much it. I will now, wow, it's a long video. I will now go on and do a new moon video for you guys if you're interested. So that was just basically to outline the equinox situation. Anyway, thank you very much for listening. Thank you for joining me. Have a look at my albums of music. I also have others waiting to see the light of day. I hope that you enjoy my channel. Subscribe if you like, and treat yourself to a reading if you need one. Thank you. Bye.